This monster drove players in mass to review bomb Monster Hunter World, and today, I'm going to beat it. Well, let's start from the beginning. My original plan was to grow my master rank level, unlock Silver Rathalos for its critical element set, farm Kulve Taroth for its high elemental damage weapons, and then go and try to defeat Alatreon. However, I was looking at my current gear and thought, you know what? This is doable. Now, I originally planned for this specific episode to come out a lot closer to defeating Fatalis, you know, one of the final parts of my journey, but me being me, I had to try it. And so off I went with my less than optimal build in hand, and I failed the quest. A lot. I was going to give up for the time being, as I didn't even plan to be here in the first place. However, I remembered all the non-elemental, beating it without armor, or even high rank weapon challenge runs. It got me thinking, this is a skill issue. Let's just keep practicing. Before we get to the conclusion of this short story, I should explain more of the Alatreon fight in more detail. Now, this is a unique hunt with a unique mechanic that might confuse or at the very least frustrate new players. This mechanic is what drove many players to lose their mind and begin writing a slew of negative words towards it via the Steam reviews. And elemental DPS check. Alatreon has an ultimate named Eschaton Judgment, which he will perform every 7 minutes or so. Within this time frame, you must deal a certain amount of elemental damage. You'll know you've done this as the following will happen. Reaching this threshold will reduce the damage of Alatreon's ultimate, allowing the player to survive it, assuming the proper use of healing items anyway. You can further weaken the ultimate an additional 2 times, however, the threshold of elemental damage required to do so incrementally increases each time. As I'm sure many of you will already know, failing to meet this check results in an unavoidable one-shot. A quick side note actually on that, it is technically possible to cheese this ultimate and survive the blast, as tested by Team Darkside. However, 99% of players won't be performing that strategy. It's ludicrous. Naturally, this dragon has a couple extra tricks up its sleeve to make meeting the DPS check a bit more difficult. Firstly, Alatreon will inflict Dragon Blight with its dragon attacks. Makes sense. If you weren't aware, this status effect prevents you from dealing elemental damage. You see the annoyance here, right? On top of needing to heal whenever you take damage, which in itself takes time away from your DPS window, you must also consume a Nullberry or another item such as Dragonproof Mantle to clear the effect if you wish to get to the next phase without carting. The second primary mechanic in this fight, however, revolves around its horns. Now, depending on which quest you take, Alatreon will begin the fight in either fire or ice as its active element. You can refer to Alatreon's wiki page to confirm this without having to go into the quest and check yourself. If you know it will begin the quest in fire element, you will want to bring an ice elemental weapon, as it would have a 3-star weakness to it. Likewise, if it began the quest with ice element, you would take a fire weapon to the hunt. Here's where it gets tricky. Roughly 3 minutes into the hunt, Alatreon will swap element to dragon. Whilst and only in this dragon state, the player becomes able to break its horns. Why is this important? Well, doing so prevents Alatreon from continuing to cycle into the next element, which would render itself immune to the damage you entered the quest with. For clarity, let's assume Alatreon began the quest with fire as its active element. As a result of this, you brought an ice weapon with you to capitalise on the weakness. After 3 minutes, it would cycle to dragon, and if you fail to break its horns within this time frame, Alatreon would then cycle into ice element, become immune to your ice damage, thus making it impossible to meet the DPS check, and inevitably it will kill you. However, if you did break the horns in this example, Alatreon would then cycle back to the beginning into its fire element, which would give you, the player, more time to meet the elemental DPS check and ultimately better odds at surviving its Eschaton Judgment. Now, please bear in mind that you can only break the horns twice. After this, you won't be able to prevent it from cycling to your poor matchup anymore. However, if you're dealing enough damage to Alatreon, it should be close to going down by this point in any case. While all of that may sound complicated, in essence, the hunt is very straightforward. Take the right weapon into the hunt, break its horns when possible, and repeat the cycle until it goes down. And that's exactly what I did. Finally, after multiple hours of attempting the hunt, I finally managed to get the job done. For 100% transparency, I just want to make clear that this is not the original footage of the original kill, as I didn't record it. I wanted to make sure, however, to get a kill with it with that same equipment, except for the weapon, which would have been an ice variant, just to show players that it is possible to beat it without having the 100% optimal setup. Before now, I had only beat Alatreon maybe 2 or 3 times in multiplayer hunts, and that was with the longsword, so this kill was very special to me. I've since took him down over a dozen times solo, and what was originally such a stern obstacle is now actually quite a trivial hunt. But what about the negative reviews Alatreon caused? What do I think? I understand where that criticism came from. Players were ultimately upset that this isn't a fight you can just stick out to the bitter end, you know? Even if the hunt takes 40 minutes to complete, so long as the player doesn't cart 3 times and fail the quest, they should be able to keep trying. This hunt in particular, however, says no. If you want to beat me, you're going to have to play efficiently, and if you don't do enough damage in these short time frames, you're just going to lose. And maybe this is just me coming in as a new generation Monster Hunter player, but I actually really like this hunt. Everything I just explained is why I think it's great for the game. Alatreon pushes the hunter to plan accordingly, learn the mechanics, and play well, which, in my opinion, perfectly captures the nature of the formula. I understand and empathise that, in a way, this hunt in particular might prevent a percentage of players from truly experiencing everything the game has to offer, but with it releasing so far into Iceborne's life cycle, near enough at the end of it, I think this monster is a great addition to the game and offers a unique challenge for adept players who are looking to scratch that itch. I understand some of you might not fundamentally agree with me on this, and that's okay. You only need to take a look at the World versus Rise arguments to see how different players' perspectives are on how the game should be and what it should look like. Please leave a comment down below to share your thoughts on Alatreon. Do you think this monster has a place in the game? Anyway, I'll see you next time.